Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Coffee with Genially. For this September episode, we have a very special guest. Her name is Erin Doppke. She's the Chief Learning Officer at New East Learning, and she's an expert instructional designer and strategic leader that has worked with a lot of projects to transform teams and evaluate adult learning through modern design. Um, she is known for building a culture where strong performance and genuine support go hand in hand. So I want everyone to please welcome her. Hi, Erin.
Hi, it's so nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. Thank you so much for taking on this project. I know you're the new Chief Learning Officer at East Learning, so welcome too for that.
Thank you. Very fancy. I'm very excited to join.
Congratulations on your new position.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start right in. AI is a topic that is on top of mind of most instructional designers right now. So I wanted to ask you, how is the era of AI impacting the role of instructional designers and the modern learner?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a very exciting time for instructional designers. AI is really giving us the opportunity to reduce repetitive, standardized, and tedious tasks, which allows IDs really to focus on what they do best, which is to ensure that they can do that higher order design and strategy work. And what's nice about using AI is that you can ensure that the tasks are done consistently and thoroughly as well. Um, I'm seeing IDs use AI to create basic materials like simple quizzes, and summaries, to automate things like captioning and tagging, to suggest ideas even for learning activities, to update content for different reading or experience levels, to evaluate content, for potential bias even, and to develop voice and video and interactive content. Um, I don't think we're at the point yet where we can use AI without a human in the loop, and that's
For sure.
particularly true at Ease Learning. We never employ AI without talking to our customers about it, or without having a human be in the loop. Uh, so um, so that's the exciting part of AI for IDs. As far as the role of the learner goes, I learners, I think, are using AI tools more to meet their immediate needs without the help of an instructor, via chatbots and tools that help to adapt learning paths in real time, adapt content in real time. Um, AI can be used in conjunction with VR, to provide safe, engaging learning opportunities where it might otherwise be dangerous or cost prohibitive to do that. I've seen AI and VR used together to do things like, dissect things, or like do chemistry experiments, that sort of thing. So again, the caveat that I noted for the use of AI in ID work is also true here, that AI tools are not a replacement for humans, but and we have ethical considerations and digital literacy and quality control that we need to think about here. But it's an exciting time.
It is. What would you say is like a way that we can balance that use of AI and human touch? Because I know
Mm,
when as we get access to all these new tools, we tend to use it more and more to try to kind of be more effective and productive, right? But
yeah,
sometimes I think we can lose that human touch and what makes the content original and authentic.
right. So I think it is important to make sure that we're taking a look at the content from an accuracy standpoint, particularly. I mean, I think hallucinations are still a thing, but I saw a really good article about this recently, that you can, through really clever prompt engineering, you can tell the AI system to make sure that they are providing you only with vetted, true, content, and that there are some ways that you can use prompt engineering to ensure that. I also think it's important to use really good, basic project management principles of, doing a small amount first, testing, the information, testing the process, to see what's really reasonable to have the AI do versus what you could do because every project has a slightly different set of quality principles that you need to adhere to. And so I think it's important to do a little bit and test and iterate and then move to scaling your
Yeah.
solution.
All right. And so we talked about accuracy and, making sure that things are from actual sources. But we also
Hmm.
need to make sure that when we have a curse, it is effective, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you know a curse design is truly effective? And does your team play a role in the post course launch for learners?
Yeah. Yeah, the our everybody's favorite tool, Addy, includes the E on the end, which is to
Yeah,
evaluate your program, so that then I mean, it's meant to be a
a full circle.
full circle. That's exactly right. So I think the way you're able to ensure that a course design is effective is to take a look at the data. And that means ensuring that you have the baseline data to start with so that you can see the improvement. So learner performance metrics that show mastery of the objectives, which also that is assuming that you have assessments in place that can demonstrate that, and that you've scaffolded the learners so that they can achieve those objectives. Engagement analytics are another way to take a look at effectiveness, because obviously if learners are not engaging with your material, it is not going to be effective. So you can see interaction patterns and completion rates and time on task. Qualitative feedback, Kirkpatrick tells us that, the level one feedback is helpful, right? From both learners and faculty to validate that experience. And then, just double checking the alignment, based on good, principles of instructional
Yeah.
design. And to answer your question about whether the ease team, can play a role in the post-course launch, yes, absolutely. We have a help desk solution that can serve both learners and faculty. So we can provide that technical support and on-demand technical assistance. That's another part of our business that we provide.
Awesome. And when we're talking about making a lesson effective, we also
Mm.
need to make sure that there are some strategies for the content that is inside that lesson, right? So, what are some strategies you use to ensure that every piece of content, whether it's a video, a quiz, any simulation, since we talk about VR, ties back to those meaningful outcomes for learners?
Yeah. It's really important to do this. We use the best practices of in instructional design, including that backwards design process that everybody's familiar with, to ensure that we start with the end in mind, right? That we start with outcomes and then figure out what the assessment strategy is, that will help to demonstrate those outcomes. And then what do learners know and not know? What can they do and not do? And so what scaffolding do we need to provide to learners to get from point A to point B so that they can show that they have actually accomplished the objectives. So that's really the process that we use. An important part of that is to determine acceptable evidence. So performance-based assessments is a big part of what we do at Ease Learning, like case studies and simulations, because the more real we can make the assessment, the better it is for the student. If they can actually show that they can do something, not just in a course, but also in real life, that's really
Yeah.
motivating to them. And it's good for, the companies that will be hiring them in the future.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question I have for you is, what are your favorite ways to embed higher order thinking into asynchronous or self-paced courses?
Yeah, I absolutely love this question because I love thinking of creative ways to do this. I think that case-based scenarios are one of my favorite ways to do this. To provide real-world dilemmas and like clinical role play scenarios or other authentic contexts that promote that practical problem solving. Really important for motivation for students, and also sort of to help them to succeed in their future lives. The whole purpose of what we're doing. Interactive simulations are another way that I think are very helpful. Drag and drop type activities. And interactive simulations, by the way, don't have to be these like super expensive, involved things. They can be, like I mentioned, drag and drop activities, branching activities. We love using Genially to design these interactive visuals and branching scenarios and gamified elements. So there are other things too, collaborative learning, discussing
Yeah,
how you're experiencing that metacognitive analysis. That's important too. And then asking for creative outputs. And by the way, this higher order thinking is the best way to sort of uh, thwart students using AI to do the work for them. This is a way to that students can incorporate AI in doing the work and thus be able to learn how to use AI for the future.
for sure. And along the same lines, what are maybe one or two features or tools that you think are underutilized by instructional designers? So we talk about interactivity and gamified experiences. Um, well, you think which of these features do you think it creates measurable um, outcomes and helps with interactive learning?
Yeah. Um, I think one feature that is really underutilized is branching scenarios. I think they feel very complex or time consuming to build, but AI assisted authoring tools, like Articulate Rise or Storylines variable tracking, um, or H5P's branching and API, statements, that it's a lot faster to do that now than it ever has been. And you can embed the analytics that relate to learner completion and success, and that can be a really terrific way to create measurable interactive learning.
If you have to choose maybe just one feature that would take an instructional designer less than 10 minutes to implementing some content, what would
Hmm.
that be?
Boy, less than 10 minutes. That's a tough one. I have seen Rise do things that are absolutely amazing in terms of creating interactive content. Basically being able to upload storyboards and it turns it out very quickly. So I think that's probably the one that I would pick.
Awesome. Now, when prioritizing learning outcomes, how do you reconcile the conflicting demands from stakeholders? Meaning, some maybe leadership wants speed, DEI needs some structural changes. Maybe the client needs something else or a bunch of content. How do you reconcile this different objectives?
Yeah, this is another great question, because it's true that different roles come to projects with different priorities and different strengths and in the development of learning. And it's important that all of these roles align to create the best solution for students and faculty that also meets the needs of the customers. So one of the ways we handle this at ease is through our process. We take the time up front to create a framework that identifies what will be happening and sort of scopes the effort that we're going to be putting into the whole rest of the program across all the courses. And we don't proceed until we agree on this framework, all the stakeholders with all their different
Okay.
perspectives. Um, and then we work closely with customers to understand their needs and priorities, and bring our knowledge of learning design practices to the table and negotiate the best scope and timeline for every project. And then we do the same with subject matter experts. We advocate for learner-centric, outcomes-based, content. SMEs often want to provide all the content, and the thing is that that's not often
Yeah.
helpful for learners. So that's an important thing for us to do, to partner with our SMEs to ensure that content is purposeful.
What would you say is maybe the most difficult to kind of implement, or kind of, sometimes hardest to kind of reconcile?
That's a good question. I think that um, sometimes there are strategic goals that customers will have that you can only accomplish through, like a lot of work, like a lot of time. And it's important for us all to come to the table with, eyes wide open about, and respecting each other's perspectives about, okay, I see that you want to accomplish this. We could do it in lots of different ways, and also sometimes people come to the table with pre-existing ideas about what has to happen, no particular customer in mind here, but like somebody might come saying, we have to create simulations to do blah blah blah. Well, okay, but it depends on the outcome. If the outcome is to be able to do the thing, maybe the simulation is the right thing. But if the outcome is at a level where it's really just to, answer questions about the thing, or to be familiar with the thing, then, you know,
Yeah,
a
I
basic,
completely agree.
right? I mean, then a basic
Yeah.
learning path might be more effective and efficient.
Yeah, because sometimes I think when we take on a project,
Mhm.
we already want to know, we want to have a certain not outcome, but a result in a way, right? We want to see a video, this wants to be a video, or this should be a quiz, but then sometimes our objectives are different, and it's hard for us to even just, okay, maybe I should consider other ways that I should have, other results or other content that I should use instead of what I was originally thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's the avoiding technology for technology's sake. Technology is really important and very helpful, but you don't necessarily need to go in one direction or another. You need to do it
Yeah.
based on what's going to work best for learners.
All right. And I'm gonna ask you the last, maybe more technical question now.
Okay.
So let's talk about universal design for learning.
Hmm.
Um, so UDL asks us for design for variability upfront, right? So
Yeah.
what's one low effort, high impact UDL practice that instructional designers overlook?
Yeah, I mean, I think providing alternate ways for students to respond to an assignment. For example, instead of writing their answer, maybe they dictate their answer. That's a very simple way to incorporate UDL. Instead of simply pairing a text article with audio, AI generated audio narration. That would be a great way to provide a choice. To provide, I'm giving you three examples now. You
It's
asked me
okay.
for one, and I'm going to give you three. But one of them,
That's really better.
yeah,
More
but like
tips.
using Genially maybe to create an infographic instead of just text.
Yeah.
That could be a wonderful way to do it as well.
I guess it's a way to make just diverse content, right? I think it's important to try to innovate in the classrooms or in lessons, just to make sure that there is diversity of content for everyone, because we don't all like to maybe read like a whole 100-page book, right? Maybe some people are better at I don't know, going assessing like through multiple choice what their knowledge, and learning from small articles or videos. So I do think it's important to make sure that there is diversity in the content that you put out there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Different people approach learning differently, and providing, and it can be very simple, increasingly simple to do this using AI, which is great.
Awesome. Now we're going to our last two questions, which is are they are more of a like advice or you're thinking. And the first one is, if you could challenge every instructional designer to rethink one assumption that maybe it's popular in 2025, what would it be?
I think that what I would say is that learner engagement is not necessarily equivalent to keeping learner attention. Yes, learners need to attend to the learning, but in reality, true engagement is about changing learners' thinking or behavior. And sometimes that means a little bit of discomfort or struggle or even maybe a little bit of boredom along the way. And in fact, many learning thinkers say that learning only happens after a little bit of discomfort. So it's worth dismantling this idea because a learner can be entertained and
Yeah,
engaged through entertainment or emotionally hooked, but retain nothing if we don't use good adult learning principles. Deep learning just feels different. It requires that mental friction. And I think in our age of AI, it's tempting to gamify and add flashy interactivity and, rely on slickness. But that, like I mentioned earlier, uh, technology for technology's sake isn't where we need to go. Without cognitive challenge and relevance, it's like sugar without nutrition. So I think IDs should design for transformation, not just captivation.
I love that. All right, and finally, what's a brutal truth about creating inclusive, impactful learning that no one talks about?
So I don't know if no one is talking about this. I think actually a lot of people are talking about it, but talking about it quietly amongst themselves. I think there's a tension these days, between inclusivity and other drivers like efficiency and maybe even social concerns, political concerns. I think that this tension is sort of a quiet undercurrent in many projects. And the brutal truth is that research shows that inclusive learning experiences are better for learners. They're more motivating. Students are more successful if they can see themselves in the learning content. And if our goal is to create learning content that helps learners succeed, then we really must be inclusive. So we have to balance designing based on learning science with other sometimes competing priorities. And instructional designers carry that sort of invisible labor of advocating for these research based approaches, knowing that if they compromise, the learner experience may suffer. So I think that's something that is a brutal truth about creating
And
impactful
I
learning.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much for all your wise answers. It was a very engaging conversation, Erin.
great.
Thank you for again for joining me today, and I want to congratulate you again on your new, on joining the team for East Learning. I know you will do a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. It's just been my pleasure. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin, and everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again for this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.